The Eagles gave the Pies a very minor scare, and Tom Lynch was swinging like he thought he was Alistair. Rory Lobb and Aaron Francis had plenty of brawls, while Carlton fans sprayed graffiti on walls. 8 rounds to go, there's 9 teams still in it. Fife pinged his calf without playing a minute. And in a winning game 250 for Marcus Bontempelli, and the SCG is still stuffed from Andrea Bocelli. This is Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub, and I'm joined by Lee Montagna, of course, on a Wednesday. G'day, Joey.
Hello, Will. Nice to have you back. Good to see you've taken Daisy's feedback on board a few weeks ago. You've come back, you've worked on your craft, and looking forward to this second stint. It's going to be fun.
Thank you, mate. The number one newsbreaker at Triple M Footy, Damien Barrett.
I know Rabsy won't be listening. I reckon that's just about our best opener for the year. So well done to you, Will.
Bontempelli and Bocelli.
Bocelli.
He had Middleton and Wimbledon last week, I think. So
actually, that was clever.
High bar to come off.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that too. So welcome, Daisy. Thank you, Will. But yeah, no, well done. Very good, not easy, Bontempelli and Bocelli. That made good sense, and hasn't that been a talking point? My goodness. Bootgate now, everybody's piling in.
Yes.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that in the news.
Yes. We need to. But it is officially every station you hear from, time to roll out the Damien Hardwick 2015 clip.
The month of July is when the big boys step out, so it's a make or break, month for not only our football clubs but most football clubs in general. It's where the contenders step up and the pretenders fall away. So we've had that conversation with our players. It's big boy month, so it's time to come and play.
It is. It's big boy month on the field, but it's also big boy month off the field. This is where you take the sieve to the industry and you just shake it and you see what slides through. They're the pretenders. They're not going to be there.
Who digs in?
Well, who digs in? Who wants to front up
So
week
who's
in, week
taking
out?
some short steps, Dave?
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to think of some names who might not. Ryan Warren, not
Ramsey's
here.
gone.
He's had enough. Big boy month.
JB, sunbaking summer on
Yeah,
holidays.
he's son of the plums
Wearing
with
a
a bucket hat on.
hat turned up.
Tommy Morris has taken a little break.
Hutchie's
Gary
buggered off.
Hutchie is, you'll have to step in.
Jack and Nick Rewald are taking time off.
Gary
Hodgie.
and Tim aren't on SEN at the moment. Like, seriously, big boy month. But guess what? We are here. We're
here.
digging
We're
in.
here.
You're digging in. You have to fill in the
You're
host.
not exactly a big boy, but you're here.
I'm putting the chest out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Digging
At the
in.
big boy month.
Yes, you better believe it. But you were on 360
Step
hosting.
in the 360.
step in.
I had to
Yeah.
step up. You had to step up for host.
I had to host
Classified.
Monday's Classified. I was trying to get Jimmy Bartell to do it. He said, no, you are. So, I had to step up
you
and fill
don't
in
like-
for Sam McClure.
You sound like you don't like hosting, but you are very good at it. I enjoy when you do
No,
host.
It's line and length with me, Dave.
No,
There's no
but that's all
bells
you got to
and
do
whistles.
as the host, mate. Line and length. You just got to get a few
I
out of
was
the
so
V.
worried
cheesy,
about
just-
what I may do incorrectly with it that you guys would be leading this show with it.
Was that,
But
were you conscious of
always,
hosting? Thinking
every time I
about Nathan
speak
Brown
to a microphone, I'm
Bra-
thinking this is going to end up badly.
Media, I think Brandy's going to put on media
Every
ochre, or
time.
it's going to come up. Actually, I hadn't thought about that. I need to concentrate.
Last week, you boys were rinsing me about telling the story, giving the cash back at your Carro's conference.
Yeah.
Well, this week it was prickly interviews with reporters, and Mitch Cleary was on the desk.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, well, Mitch, actually, I was like, hang on a minute. I was going to tell the story when he stopped me at the airport.
Hang on,
I was like, and I just said in the meeting, I said, no, every time I say one of these, the boys at Triple M rinse me. I got nothing. I got nothing for you. I
We've
can't
heard,
help you
that
out.
one. We've heard that one before.
Little boy month.
We are running out of stories, to be fair. But we're going to dig in. July is the month. We will dig in.
You've got something to look forward to because I hear there's
Speaking of
or we
digging
hear
in.
actually, Joey and I have heard there's a big launch of a big
Hey.
extravaganza of yours coming up.
Well, Daisy going to the next level.
A big Saturday coming up, yes. So a lot of the golf that I've been playing, and you guys have been rinsing me about how frequently I'm on the golf course.
And
Well,
I-
you
and
took
didn't
a
do
Wednesday midweek rub off to go and
that was
service this
work.
deal.
Yeah, big boy month over in Perth. Sun on the plums and drinking cans. Playing some golf as well. But Teeing Off is a new show that I'll be hosting. Comes out this Saturday, 7 May at 1:30. Down to King Island we are for this first episode, but it's going to be. It was a lot of fun making it, having some say in the creative process, the way it was cut up, and the guys there have done a great job. Beautiful landscape, some golf in between. I think it's about 4 minutes something in before I drop the first F-bomb and throw a club. So it's going to be a pretty relatable golf show, I
Beautiful.
feel.
So Saturday, 7 May, 1:30, and that's good timing because there's no footy on Saturday on 7, so they can watch the golf show.
Yeah,
That'd be good.
Well, that's actually...
Just threw that in. Well, that's good for you. It's good for your show.
You want
There's
some?
no footy on Channel
If you
7.
want
you
some.
can watch your show.
I'll give it to you and your fans. You watch them.
And you'll be heard in this particular show before the 6.5 minute mark as you failed to speak in the agenda setters about 3 weeks ago when Caro didn't draw breath.
I don't know what you blokes are talking about. But yeah, Saturday, make sure you tune in. Don't worry about having to pay for it. You can watch it free on Channel 7.
That's it. Love it. Let's get into the footy, Wilbur.
Predictions to come as well as fair dinkum or Fugazi. But Damo's news is next, including Tom Lynch, Dom Sheed, North Melbourne Centenary, and the SCG Surface. That's all to come on Triple M's Midweek Rub, thanks to BWS. Round 17 predictions to come as well as fair dinkum or Fugazi, but we'll start with Damo's news. And Damo, the SCG has been among the headlines this week.
It has, and it's not just this week. It's pretty much all year. If you go back to round 6 when Port Adelaide flagged serious concerns about it, Joey, prior to their game against the Swans in that round, and then registered officially and formally with Venues New South Wales genuine problems that were raised by players, both at the captain's run and in the game itself. That was round 6. We got to round 16, the Friday night game. The Western Bulldogs had all sorts of problems, as did the Swans players on Friday night. And then we look at the news coverage today, even as we're talking, 10-11 on Wednesday. There's quite a bomb cyclone impacting New South Wales and particularly the Sydney region.
That's not the Bureau of Meteorology. That he's got the B on the end of it like a proper big cyclone.
That's right. I mean, it's a typical phrase that we in the media like to use, but I'm raising that because there was 100 mils forecast yesterday on that same venue. Didn't quite get to that amount, but there's more coming today, and it's just making problematic this Sunday match that's scheduled to be played against the Fremantle Dockers. And it's unusual for it to move a game of footy, but I think it's line ball even on this Wednesday that may be the case because of the safety element to it.
So you've been all over this story. Does this just continue to follow a long line of, I suppose, poor leadership from the AFL in regards to matters? I mean, it's been a consistent theme this year that they haven't been able to address situations as they arise, and it's gotten worse, and then they've had to try and react late.
It's a good point, Joey, because the Power Club, and it was Chris Davies who actually wrote the letter as football operations boss to Venues Management, or went to the AFL and it found its way to Venues New South Wales. But he's not one to make a lot of song and dance.
Yeah.
And my take on this is that he felt he got, or the club felt it got lip service from its initial registering of the complaint during the captain's run, and they were told that it was no, there's no problem with the ground. It's just it's slightly discoloured. Just get on with it. And it wasn't just discoloured. And Daz, you I know discussed it last night on your show on Channel 7. And yeah, it's got messy, and it shouldn't. And I think to Joey's point, it is partially the reason behind the change in leadership there at the AFL.
It's multifaceted, this part of the ground. So they've had the concert there, of course, but the rest of the ground's actually in decent nick. So from, say, the 45-metre mark to the other end of the ground, the far right end, if you're looking at it from your broadcast screens, that's fine. But that almost makes it worse because you go from trusting the surface and then you go flying into this patch that is a bit shifty, and you put your foot down with the same confidence, you slip out. You know, there was multiple players trying to set up a lead or a play on the ball to come back onto it and just go and genuinely arse up. So it's not good enough. It wasn't good enough. And the fact that I think that the AFL is starting to tick off on these things, that becomes a question as well, because you're not allowed to, this sort of ties into part 2 with the stops. You're not allowed to wear the metal stops. So the ground should be...
So get your boots right, but you can't wear metal stops and get a $40,000 fine. So what? Yeah, exactly.
So, but if the ground's right, you don't need your metal stops. So I grant you that. But if that isn't the case, well, you should be able to wear whatever footwear you want, because it's going to come down to player safety, and that's not being dramatic. If somebody slips out, does a knee, an Achilles, a hammy, off the bone, whatever it is, because of this, and they're not ready for it, it'd be massive news. And they've gotten away with it a couple of times already, the SCG and the AFL ticking off on it. They'll wait and see. And potentially, maybe this rain is a bit of a blessing, because the whole ground's just going to be a mess anyway. Bog heap anyway, so it might slow everyone down. But if it was, it's odd.
Massive week for North Melbourne. It's 100th year celebration. They've identified the Thursday night game against the Western Bulldogs at Marvel Stadium to be the stage for that celebration. There's been I'm prepared to say an ugly backdrop to it, with a disgruntled element of the 1975 Premiership team, that being its inaugural Premiership team in the VFL system, and the perceived, and that's according to some of these disgruntled people, lack of proper acknowledgement for that achievement amongst and amidst the wider 100-year celebrations of the club, 1925 being the entry point to VFL. You can discuss all of that, and that's an issue in itself, but I think most pertinently now, this club needs to front up on game day and present itself in a way that it doesn't get belted again in a marquee game, that it has sought to identify as this celebration of this game.
Well, some of these games, are they penciled in throughout the year, like pre-planned, hoping that their sides are sort of similar around the ladder? Like, are they looking at this and going, oh, maybe the Dogs will be gettable here?
Well, even this, because of the floating fixture, no one even knew.
Aye,
That's why this has been marred, hasn't it, by so many issues. I mean, there is the big public one, but there's been, I think, issues in regards to...
So you couldn't even foreplan this?
No, not really.
Right.
That's some past players haven't had enough time to come down. There's, I think, 2 separate rooms because they couldn't fit everyone in the one room. There's a stand-up element to it. I think ticket sales aren't going as they would have hoped, Damo, because probably where North Melbourne are at this year. So, unfortunately, you're right. The event has been marred, but all the team can do to try and make it a celebration is to perform really well against the Western Bulldogs. And they need to bounce back after they had been good, and we'd given them praise. And as soon as Damo, you pump them up, they come and they let you down. So hopefully they can perform much better.
Yeah, and that's what it now comes down to.
If you take your media hat off and you go from a fan point of view, if you can do that, what sort of lens have you seen how this has played out?
That's interesting, isn't it? Because I just have the media, because that's what I do now these days. And I am a member. I will pay up forever, and my 2 children, I'll pay them up forever. So there is a supporter element to it. I grew up in North Melbourne, as you said, Dave. But it's been messy. I look at what the Western Bulldogs did, and I look what Bob Murphy did to celebrate the celebration that they had at the start of the year. I look what Hawthorn did, where Shane Crawford came back. There was just smiles on faces everywhere, and this uncertainty around what North Melbourne is doing and where Wayne Carey fits into it all, and what is actually going to happen. I hope they can pull it off, and I then hope, most importantly, the team can actually be competitive. I don't even have to say win, but competitive against Western Bulldogs.
And it's a shame because North Melbourne's history, I mean, the 1970s had a great era, and then the 90s, I mean, we grew up, Daisy, in the Kangaroos footy in the 90s. Friday night, they were must-watch TV, so they have had some wonderful eras that we should be celebrating. I know sometimes that the lens is what's happened in recent years, but North Melbourne have a great history, so hopefully everyone celebrates it well.
Yeah, hopefully they can, and they've still got a chance to do that, but the game itself needs to be part of that in my eyes. Carlton, we've spoken regularly about them. They've chosen this week, and I think it's wise that Rob Priestley, for one of the few times he's been chair of that footy club since earlier this season, spoke publicly, and I thought he addressed it pretty well. I thought he was as assured as he had to be in that moment. The 8 weeks remaining of the season is their only focus right now. I think it just takes a fair bit of outside heat off the club as to where it's at. Clearly, there's a lot of answers still yet to be given, and that you will get some of those answers in the 8 weeks, but game against Collingwood on Friday night for Carlton, and if that's not bad enough, the ladder leading 10 premiership points clear on top of ladder Collingwood, they then face the team that's immediately below Collingwood on the ladder in the following round, in round 18. So this is as tough a fortnight as they're going to have to begin this 8-week stretch into decision-making big time at Carlton.
Well, yeah, you talk of a mess. That is exactly what this has become for the Blues. Brad Lloyd's comments on the weekend, coming out and speaking publicly and being somewhat doorstopped and then giving his answers didn't really help. I don't know if it was, it came out wrong, which sometimes it happens to, but the messaging there, and we discussed it on the Sunday Rub, was messy within it.
It's not, in my eyes, Days, and I agree with what you're saying there, but it's not for him in that position, in that moment, I think, to be the spokesperson of the footy club. It should have been.
So you think he should have just...
No, but the club clearly chose to do it. I mean, you say it was a doorstop, yes, but there would have been an agreed doorstop in advance of that. And to me, it had to be the CEO. But there's an issue there because Brian Cook has deliberately chosen to stay in the background this year as he transitions out to Graham Wright. And until Monday, Rob Priestley, the chair, had not spoken publicly of significance. So I was feeling for Brad Lloyd in that circumstance.
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay. Well,
because he doesn't know whether he's going to be there
No,
himself.
And that's the thing. And it sounds like Graham Wright's coming in as almost an interim footy boss when he does come in for the back part of this year, sitting alongside before he takes the biggest seat at the end of the season. It's simple for Carlton. They have to rock up Friday night and they have to put in a bloody good performance. And I don't even think an honourable loss will get it done. They have to find... You beat Collingwood, this will bring every fractured group back together. The players, the coaches, the fans. If you don't and you get smacked, well, then the pile-on will continue and that gap between everyone will continue to grow. It's massive on all fronts for Friday night, and I really look forward to seeing what the response is from everybody, the way the crowd rocks up, what the players bring, because I was disappointed in what I saw pre-game against Port Adelaide in that first couple of minutes. Yep. That was a chance, and yes, you've got excuses because you're off a short break. When you're playing for your careers, your coach's future, the club's pride and history, you got to come out and show a bit. You got to roll the sleeves up and be ready to demonstrate that regardless of result, we're here for business and we're happy to win at all costs. That wasn't there. Happened at halftime. need to see better Friday night.
Yep. Joey, we have been talking about the likely re-inclusion soon of Will Day, Mitch Lewis potentially, and obviously James Sicily for Hawthorn. But while that is still unfolding nicely in that space, they yesterday announced that Josh Weddle would be out for the best part of the remainder of the home and away season on a best-case scenario with what is a quite serious back injury. Now, there's hope he'll come back late. There's hope he'll be available for finals. But I hear back problems at this stage of a season, and you do think the worst.
Especially when you're a young player, you want to look after them.
Yeah, exactly. Is he arguably... Oh, but look, I won't even say the most important, but he's clearly one of the most important players at that footy club.
Yeah, he is. There's no doubt it's a blow, and if you're trying to win a flag, you need a lot of luck along the way, and injuries play a big part. In some ways, I think that they can resolve this pretty quickly because there was going to be an issue when James Sicily was fit and available where he played because the back line looked better with Hardwick back there, Weddle, and the two big boys that they got to the club. But now I think it's a bit of an easier decision, especially with the forward line going well with Gunston and Chol holding up their end of the bargain, that now Sicily can go back to his role as an interceptor at centre-half back. And hopefully, now that he's over his injuries, he can perform somewhere near his best. And maybe they can compensate for the loss of a young gun like Josh Weddle.
Doesn't play with the same explosion,
No,
does he?
doesn't.
But
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. I think it's a really good point. In the space of a fortnight, you've lost the person who started and the person who ended West Coast's amazing final 2-minute 2018
great
grand
passages of
final.
play of all time.
Yeah, referring to Mitch
It's a bloody
McGovern, the
free
first
kick.
there with that amazing mark, and then the kick that the potentially mung kick or deliberately kicked to Vardy to then Ryan, and then it ended up with Dom Sheed, who drilled the most famous grand final goal in history. You can mount that case quite strongly. Both have retired now in the past fortnight, and it's just, I suppose, encapsulates where that club once was and where it now is. But the celebrations attached to both those players have been really nice. And then we get to one more news story, which you covered at the time. Obviously, the Tom Lynch meltdown against Adelaide Crows at the MCG last Sunday had its aftermath in the tribunal last night, and he copped 5 weeks for it. I feel it's about the right number with everything at play at the moment in the 2025 season.
Yeah, I think we all agree. Daisy, do you think now Tom Lynch, when he comes back, that he can change his mindset and sort of look at his approach differently, the way that he's going to play? Because he's going to be frustrated in a Richmond team where he's been a gun, he's won premierships. Now it looks different and would feel different as a key forward. Do you think he's got that in him to sort of change his mindset and temper the frustration, or is it something he's just going to play with because he's got white line fever?
No, I think he'll be able to temper it. I think the way that he's looking at his football currently would still be in the, I have to be the best player on the ground, I should still be the superstar. There becomes a point in your career where that lens shifts as to, how can I help the blokes around me? How can I help a Jonty Full? Where am I positioning him? How am I being almost the captain of the football side out on the field? And that becomes something that you sit down, you work through with coaches. So they start to value what you're doing from almost a leadership point of view rather than your kicks, marks, handballs. And I think for Tom, that's going to be a good thing because the ball gets delivered to him horribly. He's never been great at ground level, and on the weekend it went past him. And as much as you want to try, it almost makes it worse when you get stepped around and things like that, give away free kicks. So that was disappointing. The 5 weeks is disappointing, but no doubt they'll have these discussions as to how his role looks. And I think going forward, he's certainly got a role to play within that forward line and that football club as a leader in teaching these young kids, because the week before still wasn't a great game, but he made a few really hard contests, and that's what you want. If you're trying to instill what it means to be an AFL footballer in younger kids, you need to see them having an example from someone who's been there and done it, and you sort of is asking you to do what they've done. I think that's a big role for him.
And he'd be surprised if he plays that selfless leadership role. The
played
goals
better.
will come. Look at Jack Gunston. I don't think they expected Jack. He was there to help the others, and look what he's doing. So there's still upside there for Tom Lynch if he stays next year and keeps on playing.
Tips to come as the top 9 take on the bottom 9 in round 17. But up next, it's Fair Dinkum or Fugazi on Triple M's Midweek Rub with Joey, Daisy and Damo. Joey, we'll start with you. Nat Fyfe's body is too fragile for Fremantle to risk him again at the pointy end of this season.
That's most likely fair dinkum. Whether they decide to roll the dice in a final as a sub again, although even now as a sub, it's dangerous for Fifey. But yeah, unfortunately, the superstar that he is, the body is letting him down. So that's fair dinkum.
Damo, Tom Liberatore's reputation as a chilled, weird operator means his 249 AFL games are among the most underrated we've seen in recent history.
That's Fugazi, because I think there's an appreciation of what he's been able to do from not just Western Bulldogs advocates, but people who've watched him and I think have admired him and have wanted him to play for their footy club the longer he's been in the game. So I hear where you're coming from, Will, but I'm going to say Fugazi
He's
on that.
probably one of the most unluckiest players in the modern era to never be All-Australian, is my take. He fits that criteria. I think maybe Ben Cunnington, Hugh McCluggage at the moment. There's a couple. He's right there that probably deserved one.
Daisy, the SCG surface, as we've been talking about, is the worst we've seen at AFL level in the last 20 years.
20 years. Now, I'll say Fugazi. Marvel Stadium had a concert when I was playing, so that isn't probably within the 20-year period. But, that was sand at one end. They were putting green sand.
Used to do sand.
They put green sand in the forward 50, so it looked like grass on the coverage.
It's when Hutchie called it Death Valley and got stood down by Channel 7.
Yeah, correct. And probably was right. So that, and we used to play a fair bit at Stadium Australia as well. And there would always be where the seats had come out for the rugby league. They'd always put new turf there, and the middle would be chopped up from the big rugby boys. So if you got a handball on the wing, it was like you're in this sprint lane. You're just off and gone on some fresh turf. So Fugazi, but it's horrible.
Joey, Nick Dacos's last fortnight would have given himself a lead in the Brownlow.
I'm going to say, he would have polled 3 and 3 most likely. I'm still
Pendlebury
thinking,
last week, maybe.
Yeah, Pendlebury could have stolen the 3.
Darcy
from
Cameron the week
him.
before.
Potentially gave Darcy Cameron the 3 the week before. I'm going to say Fugazi. I don't think this is as clear cut as previous years. I think it's a pretty even race this year when you think of Jordan Dawson, Caleb Sarong, Bailey Smith. It'll be tight. And you wonder whether there's just a bit of an overcompensation from the umpires for over-indexing on Dacos and Cripps last year, whether when they're discussing this year, do they err on the side of a 2 voter because they don't want to look like they just give 3s to Nick? That might backfire on him. It might backfire on him.
I like
So we'll see.
it. I like
Is that
it.
theory? Do you agree with that theory?
I do.
I like it.
Damo, we can take Carlton at their word. Michael Voss will see out the rest of 2025.
Oh, absolutely fair dinkum. The question is the 2026 element to the contract that he's got for that year, but that is 100% fair dinkum.
Daisy, with Essendon playing 4 primetime games in the next 7 weeks and Carlton playing in 3, it's fair to say that the AFL's rolling fixture has been a failure for 2025.
I'll have that on the record. That was Joey snoring, not me. Has it been a failure? I haven't put enough thought into it. I'll say Fugazi, but those games aren't good enough. You want to say fair dinkum?
Yeah, I can say fair dinkum.
Yeah, fair dinkum. It's shocking.
Why have a rolling fixture if you then leave those marquee slots to those teams?
To be fair, they ain't saying that, Damo. If you look at the fixture, I think there's only 17 more games where the top 9 play against each other. We don't have a lot of marquee games on the run home. We'll talk about what's coming up this round, but the way that this season's panned out hasn't really helped the rolling fixture in the AFL maximise.
And hey, let's have a wild card round as well to make it better. That's said tongue-in-cheek, by the way. Stop talking about that.
Wouldn't mind wild
I like
card
it.
round.
I like
yeah.
wild card.
Yeah. What do you mean still hope for the Giants?
You've only got
Port
23
Adelaide,
matches.
Carlton?
What about all these
you
teams that are out of contention? They could fight for 10th, Damo. Give themselves a chance.
They deserve it, yeah. You've only got 23 matches. Sort it out. You've still got 8 matches now. Sort it out.
Joey, the Cats' run home is the easiest in the comp, but it may be a poison chalice when it comes to preparation for September.
Fugazi, not a buyer in that. I think it helps them perfectly. Manage their list, set themselves up. Everyone gets the week off anyway before finals. They'll be cherry ripe.
And Damo, a wild card round would be a great idea. Damo, as someone on the Saturday Rub, Joey is unbackable favourite for Nuff of the Week on the Saturday Rub after this effort from the weekend.
I was able to track down Jason's number this week.
Oh,
I was able to get a hold of it.
You know he exists.
So we are going to call him live on air, just like
well
we spoke to
done.
the Toinkosser. Toinkosser.
Not the first, I won't be the last.
Yeah, and I think he's box seating to be Nuff of the year. Fair dinkum.
All the round 17 predictions and tips are up next on Triple M's Midweek Rub with Joey, Daisy and Damo. Catch all the games of round 17 across Triple M on the Listener app, starting with Thursday night, North Melbourne in their Centenary celebrations against the Western Bulldogs at Marvel. Joey?
Yeah, well, as we said, this round, top 9 v bottom 9. So we're all probably going to be similar with our tips. So we are going to there will be an upset this round. That will happen. So we are going to try and pick one that we think may happen.
Will it be this one?
I don't think it's going to be North Melbourne this week. Not against the Western Bulldogs.
They've lost their last 8 against the Bulldogs.
They are airborne, especially under the roof at Marvel. Good luck, Toby Pink, on Sam Darcy, but the Dogs win.
It's hard. You can't argue any other way, can you?
No, not this one.
It's a Bulldogs win.
As much as I'd love to tip North and see the fairy tale, I just don't see it happening.
The first of 2 Friday night games starting at the MCG. And Damo, it's the Daisy Thomas Cup. Carlton taking on Collingwood.
It is 100 games for both clubs.
Is this the upset?
Only player in the world.
Daisy, earlier in our show today, said that Blues have to win. I just cannot see a way that they will. So Collingwood for me. I'm not tipping the upset in this one, Joey.
there will be a sense within Collingwood fans especially, probably the playing group, that if you have the chance to kick the Blues while they're down, you do it as repeatedly, as often and as fiercely as you can. This is the Pies fans, they want blood. They want a pile on here and they want it to the tune of 10 to 15 goals as a minimum. I can't tip the Blues. I expect a response, but just with what Collingwood are doing, they should be too good.
Yeah, the Carlton fans that go to the footy are going to be brave because they're setting themselves up for Collingwood fans just to sledge them and get stuck into them if they do a number on them. I expect Carlton to be competitive. I'm like you. I think they will be competitive. I just don't think they'll be good enough to win.
And then an hour after that one, Daisy, it is West Coast hosting the Giants at Optus.
Yes.
They've been good, West Coast.
We've got to try and find an upset in this one. That was sort of our chat off
They've
air.
been good. They've won one game.
Yeah, they've lost.
Been good for them.
Yeah.
For their expectations.
Patronising.
One game.
I mean, good in the
It was a bloody good win after
Joey.
a
I know
pretty
you
good
love
loss.
Andrew
They were good
McQuarrie.
against Collingwood. They were good against Collingwood. I was
yeah.
surprised how well they played.
Lost by 5 goals.
GWS just win, Damo.
They do.
I was half thinking about tipping West Coast, but I'll go Giants.
And then on Saturday, Joey, it is Essendon taking on the Suns at Marvel.
Essendon get a few back from injury from all reports, but I think Gold Coast have got a different steel about them this year. That first quarter was pretty impressive. They're a bit disappointing after that, but I'd be disappointed if Gold Coast lose, so they win.
Yeah, I know you've challenged us to find an
Yeah,
upset
still
in
not
this
yet.
round. Not this game for me, anyway.
I'm going to take my upset as this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, yep.
Back to Marvel Stadium for the Gold Coast Suns. We know how much Dimmer hates Marvel.
Yep.
They lost there earlier in the year.
To Richmond.
Yes.
Yeah. So purely because I have to pick and said I'd pick one outsider. That's the one.
Okay.
Down at the Cattery, Damo, Geelong hosting Richmond.
Yeah, I'm not tipping my upset on this one either, given that I've tipped Geelong
Day
every
game,
single
Bolter
week
can
for the
play.
best part of 23 seasons, and it works most weeks.
Yeah, no, Geelong.
Comfortably.
And Daisy, the Lions off the bye, hosting Port at the Gabba on Saturday night.
I think this will be a better game than people expect. Brisbane, though, at the Gabba, fresh off a spell. Yeah, they'd be winning this one.
Right, this is the one, Joey.
Is it?
This is
Really?
the one
Wow.
that I think
Kenny, you're a
could
Kenny
be.
man.
I'll be tipping Lions, but you set up the challenge.
Yeah.
Which ones may be?
Yep.
I reckon the Port. They've won 3 or 4 since their bye. I think they've held together pretty well. I think Ken's going to be able to go out the way he should, and that is with his head held so high it's not funny, because I think he's been a very, very, very good coach. And the only loss in that 4-week patch has been to the Swans, who have been in good form. I really think that. So potentially Port Adelaide, but Brisbane Lions for the official tip.
Okay, yeah, well, the Gabba not as big a fortress as it has been in previous years, but I'm still thinking Brisbane win this one.
Port in 10th in that wild card spot. They're
Oh,
ready for
wow.
September.
Kenny could get him all the way.
Can he do it?
Joey, the other Saturday night game, St Kilda and Hawthorn at Marvel.
This is the one I'm going for the upset. I really liked what I saw from the Saints.
Oh, Ross, St Kilda
Again,
Mafia.
There we go, Rossi masterclass. I'm going
loss,
to give the Saints a chance. They're my outsider. If I think there'll be one, it could be this. They were really, really good against Fremantle. They're playing the youngsters. Alex Taru, what about?
I was going to ask you about him.
Yeah.
Are you sold?
yeah.
In the space of 2 matches, you've seen enough.
Yeah. Well, even the under 18 stuff. He was a great get for St Kilda to get that late in the draft. I think at pick 10, he could be anything. We saw some signs. I love the kid's energy. Maybe an upset.
He'll take a hanger that is Mark of the Year one day, as long as he stays fit and healthy, but I won't be tipping his side to be winning the Hawks for me.
Same for me.
Then the early game on the Sunday, Damo, Sydney hosting Fremantle at the SCG on a sloppy surface.
I've loved what the Swans have done. Now they've got their good players back, but I'm just on this Freo bandwagon at the moment. And as you guys know, I did think at the start of the year they could or were capable of a grand final. I think the 6 wins in a row suggests that they are just starting to come together. And how good a battle will it be between Grundy and both Cox and particularly Jackson? So provided that game is at the SCG, I'm going to tip the Dockers there. Is that an upset?
Probably not.
No,
Maybe.
this is the
That'd
50.
Be,
This is the only 50-50
50-50.
really for the weekend.
All right, you won't give me that.
I think I'm going to go with you with Fremantle, and I think we find out what they are really made of in this next 3-week period. So they've got the Swans this weekend, then the Hawks and the Pies. If they are to win 2 of 3 of them, actually probably one of the last 2, I should say, because I expect them to beat Sydney, I'll be taking them as a serious contender, and they're getting it right. So a big few weeks
Very much an outsider. Of just
Oh,
looking
no.
at
Who's the
the-
outsider?
Very much.
Fremantle.
On the old terminology,
yep.
are we allowed to say odds?
Absolutely.
6-4 in the old terminology, 250.
I love
Oh
it.
wow, there you go. Although I'm nervous for Fremantle here. I think this is a real danger game. I like the way Sydney are playing as well at home. Fremantle haven't been convincing. St Kilda, it took them all of
Yeah.
took
Good in the
3.5
contest,
quarters.
though.
North
Yeah.
Melbourne, it took them right to the death.
That's
Even
true.
the Essendon win but they took them till about just before 3/4 time to break them. So I think Sydney will win this.
And Daisy, finally, it is Adelaide and Melbourne at Adelaide Oval on Sunday afternoon.
The D's will give themselves a chance. They've won their last 4 against the Crom, so there's a decent enough form line. I'm loving everything about Adelaide, and I think that they just continue to roll on, and they should be locking away a top 4 spot by the end of the year and giving themselves every possibility to be into a prelim with a couple of home finals.
I'm a big fan of Stephen May, but I'm worried about him because George Yardy's kicked a bunch on him. Ben King got a hold of him. Now he's going to have to play on Riley Thilthorpe or one of those. So good luck. Adelaide are too big, too good, too powerful.
Yeah, I'm coming around big time to the Crows. I love how they're trying things in game too with the Max Michaelani
Yeah, it was
move even
fun.
last week. And then Dan Curtin's just doing everything right for where he's at as a player. I love what they're doing. They're adding layers, I think, to their game every single match. And yeah, they should account for Melbourne, in my eyes, quite easily.
Catch every game across round 17 on Triple M and the Listener app starting tomorrow night with the Thursday rub ahead of the North Melbourne Centenary. Roaming Chew, I hear, is going to be
Roaming Chew.
trying to pick up some North
he?
Melbourne names just down on the surface of Marvel, so that'll be good to hear. Jack Heverin, Kate McCarthy, Isaac Smith and Jay Clark to join him. That's this week on Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub.